Hey, welcome back to Of the Devil. Cheesy here. We are continuing our investigation. We just kind of checked the main room where the bloodshed mostly happened. So I guess we're going to have to see what's going on in the, containment room. Where our boy, was it Sosuke, was stuck in? Where are we? Was it Sosuke? Yeah, it's Sosuke. Looks like crap. Alright. Okay, looks like that's everything in here. Well, I don't envy either of your workloads. It's a mess in here. It's a lot of blood, that's for sure. I'm impressed you haven't gotten nauseous, miss. I'd be right at home here if you all weren't poking your noses around. Shoot, I just remembered. I'll never hear the end of it if I don't check in with my partner after I said I would. You too good to keep going if I step out to make a call? A call? Is your partner your mom? And is your mom blind? Send a text. Thanks for your understanding. Maybe he was the one with the weak stomach. You be sure to let me know if you're feeling faint. I can keep going. We're nearly finished anyway. I'd stick to the arcs if I were you. Nothing behind that door that's better seen in person. You've been such a gracious host up until this point, Miss Han. Why the cold feet now? It's ugly in there. Uglier than this. Different kind of ugly, then. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, it is. I warned you. Don't worry, I can stomach it just fine. So as long as I can understand it. Why did Creek's pod torture my client? I don't know that they did. Sosuke told me they electrocuted him, Han. They probably just grounded him. Low-grade currents applied every few minutes stops most mods from rebooting. So, no SOS pings, no adrenaline bursts pulled out of his ass. And the pliers, hammers, and syringes, what purpose did they serve? They could have just killed Sosuke when they failed to nab Makoto. Instead, they dragged him down here. Why? To try and get info on Makoto's itinerary? Get enough intel to make another run at him? If there are any answers for me in here, I'll need a grout scraper to find them. Alright. Okay, some buckets. It's water, cold enough that the condensation's on the outside of the bucket. Is that water for sponge baths? Just a simple way to keep guests from dozing off. Temperature shock makes caffeine look like a sleep aid. This coming after you claim you don't know if Sosuke was tortured. You know what the other bucket's for, then? I know you said you got a weak sense of smell, but do you really need a hint here? But then this last bucket here is... What is that? Trash? Cloth and rope bindings. Or bandages. See, they were nursing him back to health. I'll run your theory past Sosuke next chance I get. This must be what's left of what they were keeping Sosuke tied up with. They would have had to use something, yeah. The store doesn't even lock. Not after I removed the bat, barring it from the outside. So he was brought here, tied up, questioned. Then he breaks out, bursts into the next room, cuts up two of his captors, and blows the other two away. That's what you think happened? That's what it looks like. And then what? Chopin runs in and turns his back on a violent criminal? Don't strain yourself trying to make it sound improbable. Cops are dumb. If the Hound crouched in a corner, he'd have his chance soon enough. Hell, he probably just played dead. Walking into the scene out there... Well, into that scene out there, you think some patrol officer would go around checking pulses? Why would my client go to all that trouble to get the jump on an officer? Why not just run away? Hell, why not ask him for medical treatment? Because he was standing in the middle of the 4 men he just killed? I know that Sosuke had no logical reason to attack Chopin, but so what? Even Sosuke himself said he would have been acting on instinct. Would instinct tell him that Chopin was in between him and his escape? Probably not. You just leave through the window. Look at that. Ooh. Syringes. Hypodermic needles, probably not packing anything healthy. Sosuke better hope they were at least sanitized. I'm not sure Sarah can treat an infection with gauze and rubbing alcohol alone. But those needles there... The design of these needles seem a little odd. Well, someone tell you sooner or later, so... They're projectiles. Load them into a gun and fire away. Sosuke was captured by men wielding needle guns. Does Science Security have any peacekeeping tools they'd like to disclose as having recently gone missing? You're cursing up the wrong pipe. Creek could find tools all on his own, and we're not that kind of operation. An operation where the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing? More like the right hand's just been washed, so if you have to handle some garbage. Sinus, is that legitimate? Why aren't all the Bluebloods working legal jobs then? Not enough positions available. You gotta earn like hell to be considered for a job on this side of the fence. Creek and his pod weren't bringing in that kind of money. They liked Creek's pod where it was. Who's they? Upper management. That mask is a death sentence, crafted specifically for one special, very special customer. I'm just the one given the honor of hanging on to it until... And did upper management like Creek? I'm just a humble site manager, miss. I wouldn't know. Sure. So do all these needles contain anesthetics? No, there is also stimulants and barbitocene. Barbitocene. Truth serum? Red ink sketch. Red ink is information systems protocol. Anti-dissemination. First developed in the thing. About hackers and newfound capabilities after the third net code leak. Red ink practices emphasize the vulnerability of digital systems. Red ink is also commonly used to refer to any kind of printed text material that incorporates anti-piracy measures. Okay. That's what I sort of expected. Barbitocene, originally developed as a hypnotic sleep aid drug for active duty military personnel, often depicted as in popular culture and some drug manufacturers' promotional materials as truth serum, barbitocene has never been shown to function as such in controlled setting. When compared against a sampling of liquors ranging from 40 to 80 proof, barbitocene resulted in truthful confessions only 0.2% more often, and no subjects admitted to providing information that they were not already comfortable in divulging. Users also frequently search for how to tell if someone is cheating, where to buy a lie detector, see who has me muted on social media. It's great. Yeah, the red ink. It's really giving me a headache when I turned it off. I didn't enjoy having to turn it on before I left. Just to leave no trace. I guess that's the sound system. Sosuke sword, katana. Another murder weapon. I had to wipe the prints off before taking my leave. It was indulgent, trying to take Trey's head off. Wasn't my only indulgence either. Must have gotten Miller's blood on the blade's tip when I dragged it across the floor. Yeah. Needles. And the bindings. Okay. You can get sued for selling it as such. It makes you talk. Doesn't make what you say the truth. So they wanted Sosuke talking, but what did they ask him? If your client can't remember or isn't willing to recall, then really no one else alive who would know, yeah? I guess so. Can't look at the pliers. No, nothing else. Nothing else. Alright. Has all this blood been tested, Miss Han? Enough of it has. Besides Sosuke, who else would it belong to? That's a bit lazy, but it's not as if there's more here than that last time I visited. Sosuke really did lose a lot of blood. By the time he stumbled out of here, a stiff breeze should have been enough to knock him over. Is he really such a badass that he still managed to take out a police officer before it even noticed? It's not as if I feel nothing looking at someone else's handiwork, the product of their violence. But it's like an artificial sweetener. No complaints for that first instant. Then the aftertaste comes. Empty calories. I'll just be hungrier again later. Faster. Best to stay disciplined. Oh, alright. I'm getting a headache, but it's not from anything sensory. I should know more about this crime. I should know more about this crime scene than anyone. Why can't I piece it together? If I can't piece it together, the cops will never trace any of this back to me, right? So why do I feel so ill at ease? Okay, thanks for your patience, ladies. Did I miss anything? Nah. Oh. Would you have felt better if you had? I'm going to head out now, actually. I've got a long day tomorrow. You're going back by yourself then, are you sure? Could get you a ride out of the neighborhood. I'm sure Miss Han here has already made sure that we both get out of here without any trouble. That is her company's area of expertise, isn't it? Of course. Well, at least let me walk you out. Sure. Why not? Safe travels. Bye, Han. So, Detective, there is something you didn't want to talk about in front of the professionals at Sinus Security. Thanks for picking up on that. Reyes will be upset that you never checked in. Yeah, right after this, I will. This room. Are we directly underneath the crime scene? Yep, same fire escape right there. Same type of window, too. Has this room been scanned into the arcs? Yeah, but no one found anything noteworthy, except Sinus being sloppy. So what were you actually doing when you left Han and I back there? Something Han said earlier about how no true blue would wish harm on Creek. Her phrasing stood out to me, because it implies the existence of false Bluebloods, because it reminded me of one of the first things I learned in this city. There are no monoliths. Megs, Orcas, City Hall, there's always factions. And among the Bluebloods, the party lines are especially visible. So I made a call, not to Reyes, and confirmed some things, and figured I owe you a little hint or two, considering the tone of the last message I delivered. That message warned me not to broaden the scope of my investigation. Getting hints from you might be self-defeating. Not these hints, trust me. So, what faction did our pal Creek belong to? The Youngbloods, opposite end of the compass from the old guard of the conservative Blueblood leadership. All of them older than 70, some of them pushing higher than 90. Han said Creek was too useful for anyone to want dead, but my sources don't agree. Creek talked, said things aloud that others only whispered. Ambitious, charismatic, up and coming, and young. Could easily see him being very unpopular with all the wrong people in the old guard. That's interesting info, Detective, but it doesn't exactly flip this case on its head. I already know who killed Creek. The police have already decided it's Sosuke. Learning that he had some occupational hazards will hardly convince the jury otherwise. The client is the one standing accused, and everyone already knows why Bluebloods and Ikariyas would want to kill each other. Do you? They're rival gangs. They hate each other. Do you know why? It's the same reason all the Blueblood leadership is ancient, while all their muscles made up of orphans and delinquents. 30 years ago, the Ikariya betrayed their peace with the Bluebloods, started killing them. And they didn't stop for days. By the end of it, every single member of the leading Blueblood families under the age of 40 was dead. Well, I can see how their kids would grow up to hate the Ikariya. Yeah, you're not getting it, Tiger. Their kids didn't grow up at all. If that's the case, how are the Bluebloods still around? For one thing, the Ikariya had bigger fish to fry. This was right before the Red Decade. They spend every second of the next 10 years positioning themselves so they could come out at the other end of the neobility. Has neobility. Second, what remained of the blue bloods found a new niche to fill, taking in delinquents furious at the country driven off a cliff by adults before they could even get a chance to vote. Blue bloods swelled their ranks to new heights by looking out for the little guys during those years, in exchange for favors down the line. Lastly, and most importantly, they survived because they still had hope. You serious? I am. It's a powerful weapon. Hope for what? Hope that the Ikaria had missed one, that they'd fled to the country. Hope that a promised heir would grow strong and return one day, a triumphant little lord with overflowing riches and overwhelming power. Sounds like a fairy tale. Those endure for a reason. Well, now you know. A warning to watch where you stepped isn't exactly worth much if you're fumbling around in the dark. Fairy tales and warnings. What's up? Huntsman. Hey, did you or your pals in Nosy ever heard about some kind of blue blood hunter? Like a bounty hunter? Or huntsman, maybe? Where'd you hear that? Sosuke thinks he might have overheard talk of something like that while he was in captivity. Does it mean anything? Nope. I don't like the hesitation there, detective. Just an urban legend. I would have said the same thing about unlisted before this afternoon, and yet... Fair enough. If you see a huntsman and live to tell the tale, I'll buy you as many lotto tickets as you want. Hey, you ever pay attention to any of this graffiti down here? Scrawlings about Lobo and the cyberpunk and HBK, increasingly. I haven't seen that myself. I was gonna say Red Hood. Why are you asking? You feel a chill down your spine? Bah, except for HBK. That's all news, ghost stories, and campfire tales. There's a lot of campsites around here. Lots of places to start fires. But Red Hood, haven't heard that in who knows how long. It's one of the oldest. Rough story. It's based on a real event. Nothing's worth recounting. I'll take your word for it. But what's gotten into you that you're feeling all superstitious? Guilty conscience? You mean about working with the mafia? A psychologist would call that projecting. Ouch. Too far? Nah. Didn't feel a thing. I don't know why I asked, really. Guess I've just had an odd feeling all day. Like deja vu? You been here before? No, I hate that feeling. It's whatever the opposite of that would be. The unnerving certainty that you're in uncharted waters. Scary stuff. Pretty scary stuff. 8:32 p.m. Nice, it's nighttime. Morgan's apartment. Ikaria, Blueblood, Megs, Orcas, dirty cops, and criminal informants. Lines drawn back and forth across the battlefield like a spider's suspension bridge. Dizzying in its complexity, frail along any given strand. One wrong move and you're completely ensnared. Priorities. The Ikaria don't care about who tore through Creek's gang, but they would prefer Sosuke doesn't spend life in prison for killing a cop. The Blue Bloods want to tear Sosuke's throat out, but if Han's taken at her word, they're settling for 5 counts of murder. Can I take Han at her word? Is she a young blood like Creek, or is she with the old guard? Could I have asked London that? If I had, could I have trusted his answer? Because it turns out Quasum London is much, much harder to read than I expected. I can't even trust my client to act in his own self-interest. The man's a bodyguard by trade, and a zealot for his house. The trial starts tomorrow. Do I still need more information? Is there time to find it? No, what I need right now is a nightcap. If I can't fall asleep, then I know I'm in trouble. Until then, guess sleep will have to wait. Oh. It's unlocked. Oh, is there some Ikaria person? Pardon me for dropping in at such a late hour, Counselor Morgan. Standing there in my doorway, she cut through the light like a blade of spilt ink. But twice as sharp and not nearly as familiar. It is outside of normal consultation hours, miss. She purses her lips, like lily petals shying away from the moonlight. What's a smirk by any other name? Please call me Mireille. Any last name, Mireille? Or Mireille? The question floats in the air like curling cigarette smoke. I can tell she was used to the smell. I'll leave that up to your imagination. Self-assured and unapologetic, the unspoken family name loud as a signature. Written in blood. You're from House Ikaria. Might I step inside? She blinks, her head turns a millimeter, as a forked tongue testing the temperature of the air. She wasn't asking for permission. Just you, and what about your friends in the hallway? She raised an eyebrow but keeps staring at the floor. She surprised my perception of the unseen threat, but not quite impressed. I don't think they need to join us, do you? She was the kind of woman to make you remember. Smoking could kill. Oh. Someone's partying hard here. What is that weird smoke thing? What is this? How can I be of service, Mireille? You're already being quite accommodating, both to me and my family's interests. I came here tonight to be of service to you. I understand that you're somewhat new to this underworld of ours. I'm grateful for the offer, Mireille. But inexperienced as I am, I've gathered that House Ikaria didn't come into its fortune by being generous. Would you like to know how House Ikaria did come into its fortunes? I know you operate a lending corporation with a significantly diversified portfolio. Yes, the good old IFG, the public face of the Ikaria criminal empire, clean shaven as it's become. And I know you founded a pharmaceutical company and profited immensely when it went public. And before that, I know your family became nobility during the years of civil unrest. No doubt by being well positioned when the time came to reprivatize our nation's industries. Yes, and before that, I know you slaughtered the Bluebloods 30 years ago. Very good, Counselor Morgan. You've acclimated to our waters remarkably fast. What I don't know is why Makoto Ikaria has been the target of multiple kidnapping attempts over the past year. You can't fathom a guess as to why the Bluebloods might want to ransom the family's heir. That's the only guess I can make. It strikes me as shallow. I feel the same. Nothing more dangerous than waters you don't know the depth of. As you said, 30 years ago, the Ikaria cartel, an unrecognizable band of brutes and drug smugglers compared to today, massacred the respectable Bluebloods and left their geriatric leadership to die on the vine. But we thrust the knife much deeper than that. You went after their heirs and their entire future. Are you familiar with genetic factor authentication? Using DNA as a password. Blood, specifically. Easier than memorizing a string 3 billion characters long. But GFA's fallen out of favor, hasn't it? The Bluebloods have made ample use of it back then. A bad bet. They already had all their offshore accounts, business titles, property deeds. The Bluebloods thought they had already won. That they were establishing a dynasty. So as they made their political marriages, they bound their alliances and fortunes in literal blood. That's why they're called the Bluebloods. GFA was a financial and symbolic laundering of Blueblood's past. Their children, now married, clean-cut, and perfectly respectable, would prosper along wealth no longer tainted by ill-gotten gains. Oh yeah, wasn't Bluebloods also considered like royalty? Because it's like the blood of a god. Or it's like people have like a godly blood or something. Anyways, symbolic, I suppose. So that GFA registry became the Ikaria's checklist. We went through and crossed out anyone that could have accessed those funds. Now all of it sits untouchable overseas in encrypted digital warehouses and some of the oldest, most austere banks in the world, collecting interest that will never be claimed. Does that answer your question as to why they'd target Makoto? No, and you know it doesn't. Is Makoto a Blueblood? Because if they thought they could lock you out of your coffers by killing Makoto, they wouldn't be trying to take him alive. You're paying attention. I like that. We don't use GFA, and Makoto is their heir to the House Ikaria, to the Ikaria Financial Group. He'd never be tied to our legitimate banking information. Why not? What if he wants to buy a lollipop? A lollipop would be provided for him. The family's black market proceeds and its white market holdings must never mix. You divide your house right down the middle, pardon the expression, but how can you stand atop the backs of many? And you all take this division that seriously, deadly seriously. That is our family's rule, dating back centuries. Either you serve the house or you serve its interests, never both. So you're assigned to either the criminal organization, what's registered as the IFG, or to manage the family's legitimate business holdings, like Renogen. But that means you are nearly as much of an outsider to the Ikaria financial group as you are. Nearly is doing a lot of work there. Who do you answer to then? Who controls the Ikaria's legitimate empire? Until Makoto marries? His mother. And I take it Makoto isn't solely responsible for the house's affairs at his age. Makoto wields great authority as their heir, but yes, the house is led by his father, Raphael, and more directly by his grandfather, our patriarch Daisuke Ikaria. Oh, it's that guy. I see. That puts me back where I started. The Bluebloods want to hold Makoto hostage to gain leverage on the likes of Daisuke. How can I put this? Had things gone even slightly different 30 years ago, the Bluebloods would be the ones shaking hands with politicians, marrying ambassadors, and sitting in boardrooms. Some of them believe it can still be so, if the right match were made. They want to marry into the House Ikaria, but Makoto's and all the real Bluebloods are older than. They'd find an age-appropriate adoption. You're missing the point. They need Makoto alive and well to negotiate that kind of reversal of fortune. So they've been trying to capture him for the past year. But every Blueblood I met today seems to care a lot more about getting revenge for their dead men than kidnapping a preteen. How many of them do you think Sosuke's cut down in the last year he's spent repelling their attempts? Is that a source of internal conflict? If the old guard are throwing young bloods into an Ikaria shredder, en masse trying to capture Makoto just to elevate themselves, I suppose that all might total up to enough motivation for them to torture Sosuke, yeah. I had heard Sosuke was wounded. No one informed me he had been tortured. You know him, I take it. As you've gathered, Sosuke deals in matters unrelated to my side of the family. But he is still family. Speaking of my side, I have a duty as a representative of my wing of the house to stress that we do not want this trial to be prolonged. So the bean counters don't care for the extra attention. That makes sense. Do you care about the outcome? A win is always preferable, but not a necessity. Makoto Ikaria hired me to prove Sosuke's innocence. If he's the one signing the checks, did he say why he hired you? He hired you for 2 reasons. Reason 1, his options are limited. More limited than he suggested, no doubt, to keep a strong front. The entire house is currently being audited by the state. Our usual legion of lawyers and accountants are already billing hours as fast as they can, so he wouldn't have his pick of the litter. So one half of the family can't talk business at the dinner table with the other half, but you share a pool of lawyers? Lawyers can be trusted to be discreet, can they not? Yeah, we can read between the lines. So then you'll understand reason 2. Whatever lawyer he did find through the Ikaria's usual connections would, like me, do whatever's best for the house as a whole. And not what's best for Sosuke. I'll make an amendment. 3 reasons. Makoto knew that if he didn't assign him any lawyer, Sosuke would just stay silent as the state dragged him off to be chained. Rather than inconvenience the house any further. Well, yeah. I've known Sosuke for less than a day, and even I can tell he's never seen a cross he wouldn't jump at the opportunity to bear. And explains why Makoto would hire someone without connections to the Ikaria. He's slow-rolling another addendum that'll clear up why on earth my name came across his desk. Littered with crayons and timetables, I'm sure of it was. I hope I've been able to elucidate matters for you, Counselor Morgan. A masterfully subtle way to say we're done talking. Now, I might ask you a small favor in return. Pass this message to Sosuke. If you see a way out, take it. Do you understand what you're asking him to do? Even if Sosuke took a plea bargain, even if I somehow got the other charges reduced to manslaughter, self-defense, the state thinks he killed a cop. The message is for Sosuke, not you. Are you trying to tell him to, kill himself? Your interpretation of it is irrelevant. End of conversation. As she reached the exit, she turns back to look at me, lingering in the doorway like a warm buzz of a strong, dark cocktail. But your assessment is correct. If this were just 4 dead Bluebloods, our dim little underworld could balance out the ledger unassisted. If that cop hadn't shown up last night. Do you know something about the late Officer Chopin? City in mourning after death of city councilman's beloved adoptive son in the line of duty. All I know is that his funeral dirge will make those 4 boys' deaths sound like a disinterested sigh. By the way, I must admit you have a lovely apartment, Counselor. Changing the subject as subtly as a bullet train hopping its tracks. Quite spacious for a defense attorney. Yeah, place wouldn't sell after the tram route got diverted. I negotiated down the rent and then installed a soundproofing myself. Can't open the windows without being treated to the sound of the city then. There's always a cost. That's one mystery solved then, isn't it? Enjoy the rest of your quiet evening, Counselor. The door slides to a close behind her, easy as a question left unasked. I'm left here hanging on a single held breath of stillness, listening as the deafened thud of her honor guard's implied violence stomps down the hallway behind her. I was still leaned back in my chair, staring holes into my ceiling long after the scent of her expensive tobacco had faded into null. Savoring it while it lasted was beyond me at the moment. My attention's elsewhere. This case is knotted and twisted like a gnarled oak. Just when I think I found my rhythm, the blade runs dull. Carving is an exercise in patience and vision. You need to start with a clear picture of what you want. I want some answers. But for now, I'll sleep. Tomorrow in court, I'll just have to keep whittling away at the wood until I fashion something halfway usable. And, well, if that doesn't work, I'll use a chainsaw. Oh, okay. Hey, cool kid. Yes, you. Trying to look all stoic staring out the window. Little late to try and look detached after that thing you pulled the other day. So that wasn't a joke, making that announcement in front of the class? You trying to start a detective club or something? Wet mysteries, disappearing cleaning supplies, books not getting returned to the library? Sounds lame. Well, not like that's your fault. Everything's lame. Good luck finding members. Everyone around here already knows what they're going to do after school. And tomorrow, and next year. They're all staring down the barrel of a lucrative career in telling other companies how to provide web services, or whatever the hell this school's supposed to train us for. A lawyer, if you say so, cool kid. The Megs will probably have robots doing that by the time you graduate, but sure. Law school's supposed to be hard to get into. You'll need a record that doesn't suck. Getting the club you started shut down because you couldn't get anyone to join probably won't help. Wow, so confident. You really are a cool kid. Yo, you should kill her. I think it's a good idea. Not that I'm, trying to encourage to killings her. It's just it sounded like she was really annoying. All right, we're in the state building, baby. Floor 48. Morgan, please. This is... Hold still and relax. This'll be over soon. I thought you were joking about the makeup. Of course I wasn't joking. A face like yours is invaluable in the courtroom. And you think covering me in concealer and blush, applying eyeliner will help me appeal to what demographic exactly? You know the names of all this stuff? I'm a modern man. I know the names of many things, including makeup. I look great. You look great, dude. I know I look great, but you look great. You look better. Is that your eyebrow gel? Yes. It's cakey. Do you want to do the rest? I think some of the jury might find that his wounds make him look rugged. And furthermore, from an aesthetic perspective, leaving some of his buttons undone will... Excuse me? You're clearly a very devoted martial artist, Sosuke. You should be proud to display your well-defined collarbones as fruit of your efforts. Just hold still. Appearances matter in the courtroom. 95% of defendants who are ever seen in person, garb at trial, are found guilty. I don't doubt your tactics work, Morgan. My tactics include getting your suit pressed. Do you want me to wrinkle it back up? I just find them unpalatable. Trying to get the jury, these civilians, to pity me is shameful. You're worried about honor, really? You're already a cybernetic ninja, Sosuke. Don't be a stereotype. Don't call other people stereotypes. He's right, Adonai. And he's more of a cybernetic samurai, since he's sworn himself to a wealthy land-owning noble. I'm confused, Sosuke. Is it honorable how your family makes their money, made their money? I'm not talking about morality. I'm talking about having principles. Yes, they're subjective, and yes, they can be hypocritical. But the further you stray from the common path, the more you need them. What about her? What would Sarah be like if she didn't have tenets to guide her programming? I can only imagine. But some people, believe it or not, enjoy their freedoms. Adrift in the middle of the ocean, you're free to go in whatever direction you want. But without a compass, you'll just die of exposure. If you only ever follow exactly what the compass says, you'll sail north until you freeze to death. The point is, if you have a compass, you know which direction north is. Fortunate for us all, then, that the state is a 1,000,000 megawatt North Star pointing towards complacency at all times. And the media is like the wind, and without wind, you'll get stuck in the tide. Now, don't mind the outdoors. Windows open. It's the summer. It's almost the summer. It was a nice try, Sarah. Forget it. Do whatever you want with your brushes, woman. And you're pounding again. Great. Sarah, just keep him talking. What? If I'm talking, how will you? Trust me, I've done more delicate work before. Sarah, small talk. Gladly, Adonai. Let's talk about tattoos. Sosuke, do you happen to have any tattoos? Are the jury going to ask about that or something? They might. Oh. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do have a tattoo. A komainu on my back. Komainu, a guardian dog. I somehow knew it was a dog. You have a tattoo of a dog? It's a fierce guardian deity. Like a Labrador or like a great fierce... a big dog. Perhaps you should have it changed to some other design, like, say, like a dragon. There's no switching. The buyer's remorse must be unbearable. There's no buyer's remorse. Sarah's great. I missed her. Lift your chin. You really think they'll feel bad for me because of some cuts and scrapes? You're not good at listening to instructions, are you? The prosecution has to get 12 strangers to agree that you killed 5 men. Each charge has to be unanimous, a perfect score. So any chip damage we can do, any doubt we can sow, we take it. And any advantage we're given, we make full use of it. But the advantage you're talking about is my face. Are you really not used to this kind of attention, Sosuke? Look, it may be true that at times some women have expressed, and men, no doubt. All I'm saying is there's a difference between knowing your strengths and powdering up like this. All I'm saying is that there's a difference between knowing your strengths and powdering up like this. Pretend it's war paint. Is that how you see it? No, but I'm a grown-up. This is pretty funny, honestly. Thank you for entertaining my questions last night, Sosuke. What? It's not working. Oh. Did she ask you about your dimensions? Jesus. Did she ask you about your dimensions? The subject might have come up. The subject might have come up. She's a talkative one, isn't she? Sorry if she kept you up all night. No, she's no trouble. Just curious. Reminds me of... we discussed history. Oh, well then she must have put you right to sleep. Adonai, it was his choice of subject. So you read history, Sosuke. Here I assumed you spent all your free time frowning in the corners of rooms with your arms crossed. We talked about the Roman Empire, for your information. And criminal empires. Nothing too detailed, I hope. But Sosuke, I still don't understand. What did you mean when you said criminal organizations used to be structured differently? Only that the old ways don't fit in our new 21st century world. Old ways? Well, He's talking about race, Sarah. Race? I don't understand. Well, that's to be expected. After all, you share 98% of your components with a washing machine. That is an untrue and unflattering comparison. Maybe you do get it. Look, Sarah. Names like Mafia, Gokudo, Sanhehui, they all came from different cultures, but they all refer to a kind of path. An outsider's path, and the pride that comes with living by your own set of rules. Those were the first criminal organizations, underground guilds, lending systems, militias, secret societies. Oh sure, they were basically just big friendly charities. Then the world got smaller, and the people started moving around, and the mafia changed. It became a way for immigrants to band together to have some kind of power in places that wouldn't give them a chance at anything remotely respectable. But the world kept getting smaller and more complex, and eventually that kind of community couldn't form, let alone survive. Why? Not enough shared experiences. Shared experiences. I see. Fancy way of saying the internet came along. Well, yes, technology negates the physical distance between people. When you spend most of your life online, you end up with more in common with people on the other side of the planet than your own neighbors. Just because of where your recommendations take you. So, the immigrant experience disappeared. Fractured, more like, cracked into a million shards with a hammer. While generational or economic experiences got cemented. The world is more diverse and varied than it's ever been in every sense. Except economically. Wealth inequality is at historical highs, as it has been every year since before I was born. To answer your question, Sarah, that's what binds the members of a criminal organization to one another, their socioeconomic status. House Ikaria is at the top, the Bluebloods lie below us. With each organization, wealth is concentrated among the leadership, of course, but each mafia exists in entirely different strata. I see. I've also read about an organization called the Rust being active here in the city. Are they in the poverty class, then? The Rust? I'd put them in the anarchy class. Glowing tattoos and spiked hair, chrome biceps and sharpened teeth. The Bluebloods, for all their faults, can put on a tie and go to work, but I can't see the Rust experiencing any kind of social mobility. Careful, Sosuke. If the Rust heard you being that classist, the Rust wouldn't care about anything I said, or who I stand with. They don't need any excuse to start ripping open modders and grabbing whatever they can. Things like that happen in this city. Only in the shadows, Sarah. Nowhere you'd ever find yourself. Finally run out of steam. On to the grim business, then. How'd things go with your investigation? That bad, was it? Nonsense. It was pretty bad. With what I've seen so far, there's no one else who could have killed Chopin, even if I managed to pick apart all the evidence for the pod's deaths. They've got a police officer who will swear on the stand that he arrested Sosuke standing over his partner's dead body. What's it gonna look like in there? You've never been inside a courtroom? Never as a defendant. I'm just wondering how many cops I should expect. In the gallery, a sea of blue. Cheap intimidation tactics. Yes, but I can't fault them for that. We'd line up much the same for one of ours. You say that, and yet I don't see any other Ikaria around. This is a completely different scenario. And the house can't afford to appear beside a cop killer when they're being audited by the state. How understanding of you. Adonai, I think Sosuke is sad that his friends haven't shown up. Good catch. You were hired by Makoto of House Ikaria, weren't you, Adonai? Surely he would want to be in attendance. Don't be absurd. Makoto shouldn't be transported anywhere without a full security team. Besides which, he shouldn't be put through the long elevator ride to this 48th floor just for my sake. What's so bad about an elevator ride? Is he claustrophobic? No. That is, yes, but he cannot tell anyone, understand? Who the hell would I tell that to? Alright. Look, it's illegal to stream trial proceedings under most circumstances, but I'm sure House Ikaria doesn't mind paying a fine. They'll be watching from somewhere in the courtroom. That would be a waste of the house's coin, but I suppose they might consider keeping an eye on the case's progression. As will the Bluebloods, no doubt. Adonai. I think Sosuke's spirits have rallied. Really? How can you tell? Oh. Hey there, bestie. Maybe psychopathic love interest? I don't know who we are to you. He lifted his gaze. Oh, wait. He lifted his gaze and his eyes seemed brighter, as if... Good. Now, try and keep his spirits high. How do I do that? Think of something fun. Right. Sosuke, shall we arm wrestle? Oh. Good morning, Morgan. Good morning, Emma. You seem tired. Want to push this off till next week? Actually, that sounds... Hey. Sorry. But we'll be facing off soon enough. Why not savor the playfulness while we still can? Fair enough. Losing sleep over this case? Not really, no. Things look pretty cut and dry to me. What about you? You toss and turn all night before your big debut as a mob lawyer? Not at all, I slept like a rock. Lucky. I mean, I've been getting good rest more or less, just have been having a lot of late nights recently. Late nights? Like, going out? No. Just late night chats. Chatting about what? God, look at all of them. Never seen so many cops in one building. They'd bring a marching band into the courtroom if they could. Theater. Right. Well, theater and trial weren't all that far apart back in ancient Greece. Would hope we'd progressed since then. You don't approve of this show of force, I take it. Is it that obvious? I like to say this is because of who Chopin's family is, but we both know that's not what this is really about. A cop is dead. The state wants to make it clear that that isn't tolerated. Cops volunteer to defend our laws and protect us citizens. Volunteers don't get paid. Besides, cops, courts, the state, all they can do is enforce the laws, not defend them. Guns and arms can't defend against corrosion anyway. Rot comes from the deep. So you'd rather that the death of a police officer get the same treatment as any other citizen? Suppose that's not possible. They get increasingly fewer chances to play the victim every year, and they never let the opportunity pass. No, I guess the best I could hope for is that the state makes the same show of force whenever any crime is committed. If they treated every death like the death of a cop, maybe I could have caught HBK by now. You're still on that. Of course, shooting deaths are down, but do you know how many missing persons cases there are in this city? How many deaths get written up as mod harvesting attacks gone wrong? It's a big city, Morgan. More than enough blood running through the streets for HBK to launder their kills in. You shouldn't joke like that. What, you don't believe me? Just last month, missing person. The report was filed by their employer when they didn't show up to work, 7 days after they had been last seen by anyone. Oh, is that where we got the dark card? They were just some part-time worker. No close friends, no family. Okay, maybe not that. They went to work, and they came home, paid their bills, and then they disappeared. And no one cared or even noticed until their job didn't get done and those bills went unpaid. No one noticed until they stopped buying in. The body was found a full 2 weeks later. The decay was What happened to them? Blunt force to the back of the head. Something metallic, with a sharp corner, we think. It was a roughly cubed machine part I pulled from a dumpster nearby. Okay, no, it was killer. We killed them. It fit snugly in my hand, and it caved through his skull like a shovel through the snow. Kicked into the bay, might not have been weighed down. Just thrown away like a cheap... That's terrible. Did you find any belongings on them? No. So probably a mugging then, right? No, there would have been other injuries from a struggle. And a thief who accidentally committed murder would be too panicked, too terrified to... You know how muggers think now? Can learn how anyone thinks. Even HBK, with a robust enough profile. Well, good luck building it all by your lonesome. I'm not working on this by myself. Ooh. Ah, sorry. Right. Did you want to beg for mercy real quick before we begin? Now, where would be the fun in that? Well, that's just like a big oof, you know? I guess we're being tailed by her. She's good. It's very Death Note. Feels like a Light and L sort of situation, if anyone knows Death Note. Alright. I think... You know what, I'm just gonna get past. Courtroom 48. D. The courtroom gallery is quite full today, isn't it? Alright. I think this is a good place to stop. I guess we're gonna start the court for the next recording. I guess I'm gonna do the court in one shot like I usually do. I'm assuming this won't be the only day, so I'm expecting a lot of twists and turns in this one. We didn't get a lot of evidence during that investigation, so sounds like we're gonna uncover a lot, especially when we're meeting some of our unmet witnesses. Anyways, I'll leave you guys here, and I'll see you in court next time. See ya.